I've been reading my copy of The Light this morning. I'm very lucky, actually. People do send it to me, or I manage to pick it up when I'm out and about when doing my talks. It's a brilliant newspaper. If you want to know what's really going on and you want actually an inside of the truth, then The Light newspaper is the perfect vehicle for that. And I've been reading this article about smart meters. You know, the smart meters that the government really are desperate for us to have in our home. I've had emails in which people have been threatened that although they've said, no, I don't want one of these smart meters, that they said, well, in that case, we'll just have to kick your door down and we will be fitting it come what may. They've just passed the energy bill, haven't they? And that's part of it, that they're going to make sure that each and every one of us has a smart meter so that they can find out exactly how much usage of the electricity is going on and whether they want to curtail us using a certain amount. I'm sure that will be linked to if you have a certain opinion or you don't go with the narrative of the government, or you question, I don't know, things like climate change and all of that. And so it's fascinating to find out again how difficult it is to get on with these smart meters and how harmful particularly they are. There's a lady here saying that I can no longer tolerate living in an urban environment, and she's had to move. And this is what stories I'm getting all the time from those people who've felt compelled to have them, that they've had them and now they feel ill, they have headaches, they can't go on. And the interesting thing is with all of these things, like with the 5G masts going up, who's actually liable at the end of the day? It seems with the 5D radiation that's going on, the 5G radiation that's going on, the government doesn't seem to have any liability insurance, and neither do the people who put them up. So who is liable if someone can actually prove that they've been radiated to death? What will happen and how will they get compensated and who is responsible? It seems to me it is a bit of a complete and utter cock-up as ever with the government. And we've seen cock-ups with the government all the time. These boxes, have we not seen, that say on them, do not open for 30 years. And then some journalist opens it up and we discover that there was some awful scandal. Somebody was paid something or certain people were actually killed. And all of this sort of nonsense, that the government were more responsible for acts of terrorism than we really realised. Or there were documents sexed up to make us go to war, and it turns out those sexed up documents were actually somebody else's PhD thesis and not actually real at all. We've heard all of this, and how much confidence have you got in the government in rolling out some of these new schemes, that they have your best interest at heart? Certainly I don't. Having heard about these sub-postmaster, the scandal that's been going on in which this software glitch, I think it was Jisitsu, if I could actually say the name of the company, and then the government not believing and the authorities not believing the sub-postmasters, giving them so much trouble that some have committed suicide, many lost their jobs, of course, and they've been waiting for compensation, waiting for something to come back to sort of pay for this unwarranted behaviour. Now, this is interesting because it makes people, and I think now what with the television programme, I haven't actually seen it, but I did do an interview with Andrew Bridgen early last year, who was telling me about how he was involved in a lot of this to expose the government side of it, that it doesn't bode well, does it, for how competent they are in rolling out anything. And we've seen this with anything, any IT project that the government are involved with seems to really fail and cause people misery. And so here we are on the advent of digital IDs about to be rolled out, so that we've all got to have a particular digital ID. So what? We can actually go on the internet and watch the favourite YouTube people, or that we can contact the government in any department and that they'll know all our information. It hasn't gone away. They are going to roll this out, or at least they're going to try and roll it out. I don't have any faith in the government doing any of their big tech, even their third parties that they hand them over. We've seen how corrupt they are with their WhatsApp messages from people like Midazolam Matt telling his mates that we've got to scare the living daylights out of people so that they take a certain medical intervention. And we've seen how they've pushed and pushed a certain medical intervention that turns out wasn't safe or effective and has not been very useful for many people. In fact, it's caused great harms, not only in this country, but across the world. And it was great to see Andrew Bridgen at the cross-party debate, although there were very few MPs there. But there, at least the snowball is running now, and we can see just how awful that has been. And it'll be interesting to see if the government have any response whatsoever. So I have very little faith, as you may have gathered watching my videos, about the government and its corrupt nature of it, especially when it comes to things like taxes. It turns out, of course, if you've seen the legislation yourself, or listened to an interview with Chris Coverdale that I did, the legislation just goes to show that we should not be funding terrorists. And yet all our money goes directly to the government, even the council tax going to the Consolidate Fund. And as a result of that, only the other day, Rishi Sunak was handing around our money that we are expected to pay to overseas things. Nobody's asked him to do that. He's done that off his own back. He's signed it all off. And of course, it's going off to help innocent people, men, women and children being killed in wars across the world. And this is going on all the time, but it's actually illegal for us to fund terrorists. So it makes it very difficult then to pay your taxes or to pay your council tax or to pay your HMRC or Inland Revenue stuff and all of that, if you realise that that's against the law and that you would be doing a criminal offence by actually funding these people by paying your taxes. I mean, it is a nonsense. So I'm not particularly keen to see the rollout of the smart meters. I think that will be a bit of a joke and we'll see people suffering on the back of that. And of course the digital IDs. Oh my goodness, anything to do with IT and the government, as we have seen. And the sub-postmaster scandal has been a huge example of just how awful and how hopeless the government are when it comes to these roles. And it shows you how much we actually need to rely more on the analog way of things with checks and balances and not rely on the digital side of things, because once we move into that digital society where the computer says, yes, this is the fact, this is you logged on here. No, I didn't log on, that's fraud. No, sorry, the computer is always right. Well, we've seen, have we not, that the computer is not always right. And at the back of that, it is people like you and me who are suffering. So I would certainly like to see pushback for any of these one world government style initiatives where we've all got to have a digital ID. We've managed so many years, centuries, without this digital explosion, which we have yet to even explore. I mean, only the other day did we not see somebody posting a joke, an AI deep fake piece of video in which a gentleman stands up and tells him what he thought of the WEF at their meeting in Davos. And actually, to be honest with you, I agree with his sentiments. Unfortunately, it wasn't true. But it's interesting that something like that can happen and people believe it. And that's one of the problems with the digital IDs, with the digital smart meters, with everything to do with AI, is that how do we now know what's real and what's fake? And how can we possibly correct it? Nope, computer says it's correct. You owe us this amount of money, and if you don't pay, we're kicking your door down and coming for you. Let's push back against this nonsense. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I am sure, knowing that you are honourable people out there, it probably doesn't make any sense to you either.